Alien woman exiled for late pregnancy, alone on a space station until a human offers her. The emergency lights flickered along the deserted corridor, casting eerie shadows across the metal walls of Outpost Nexus. Talia wrapped her arms around her swollen belly, the soft green glow of her skin providing the only warmth in the cold, sterile environment. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, a stark contrast to the utilitarian gray and black of the station's interior. 50 years old and pregnant, a disgrace among her people, the Viridians. Their strict reproductive codes demanded first conception between 30 and 40, no exceptions. Too young meant immaturity, too old meant selfishness and resource waste. The Viridian High Council had been clear: permanent exile. Traditions preserve our way, they'd said as they stripped her citizenship bracelet from her wrist. Late conception threatens our genetic stability. Talia knew the real reason. Her former mate, Counselor Renix, couldn't risk the scandal of their relationship becoming public knowledge after he'd taken a younger, more politically advantageous partner. Exile was convenient for him. For her, it meant abandoning everything she'd ever known. The distant hum of the station's life support systems was her only companion as she made her way toward the small quarters she'd been allocated, a forgotten maintenance room converted into living space, far from the station's more populated sectors. The Nexus administrators had been clear. They would provide minimal accommodation as required by interspecies law, nothing more. Her stomach growled. The ration card they'd given her allowed for basic nutrition, but nothing accounting for her pregnancy. Tonight would be another hungry night. As she rounded the corner toward her quarters, a sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. Talia gasped, leaning against the cold metal wall for support. The baby kicked vigorously, as if protesting their shared circumstances. "I know, little one," she whispered, rubbing gentle circles over her belly. "I'm trying." The pain subsided, but tears welled in her golden eyes. In the privacy of this forgotten corridor, she allowed herself to cry. Soft, quiet sobs that echoed slightly in the empty space. On Viridia, emotional displays were considered vulgar. Here, alone, she could finally release the grief and fear she'd been holding inside for months. "Hey, are you all right?" The deep voice startled her. Talia quickly wiped her eyes, embarrassed to be caught in such a vulnerable moment. Standing a few meters away was a human male, tall and broad-shouldered. His khaki worksuit was stained with engine oil, and his boots were scuffed from heavy use. Sandy hair, cut short but slightly mussed, framed a face with several days' worth of stubble and eyes that looked as tired as she felt. "I'm fine," she said automatically, straightening her posture despite the ache in her lower back. The human approached cautiously, as if afraid she might bolt. "You don't look fine." "No offense." His directness surprised her. On Viridia, such bluntness would be considered unforgivably rude. Here somehow it felt refreshing. Talia hesitated. Viridians didn't share personal troubles with strangers. They didn't share them with anyone. But she wasn't on Viridia anymore. "I'm managing." The human's eyes moved briefly to her belly, then back to her face. No judgment, just concern. "I'm John," he said, extending a hand in what she recognized as the human greeting gesture. "Station maintenance." After a moment's hesitation, she took his hand. His skin was warm against hers, calloused from manual labor. "Talia." "When's the last time you ate, Talia?" The question caught her off guard. "This morning," she lied. John raised an eyebrow, clearly not believing her. "I just finished a double shift. Was heading back to grab some food." He paused, seeming to consider his next words carefully. "I'm not exactly rolling in credits, but I've got enough to share a meal. If you want." Talia stared at him, searching for the ulterior motive. The trap. Among her people, offers always came with expectations, with costs carefully calculated. But his expression remained open, his posture relaxed. "Why would you help me?" she asked finally. "You don't know me." John shrugged, a simple gesture that somehow conveyed more kindness than any formal Viridian courtesy. "Because you look like you could use a friend. And honestly, so could I. This station gets lonely." Another sharp pain made Talia wince. The baby was active tonight, perhaps sensing her distress. John noticed her discomfort. "Look, no pressure. But my place is just down that corridor. Real food, not those processed ration packs, and a chair that won't break your back." He smiled, a small, tired gesture that somehow reached his eyes. "What do you say?" Talia hesitated only a moment before nodding. What did she have to lose? Her people had already taken everything from her. As they walked side by side down the dim corridor, Talia couldn't help but notice how different John was from Viridian males. More direct, less formal. His work-roughened hand gently touched her elbow when they navigated a particularly dark section, a small kindness that nearly brought tears back to her eyes. For the first time since her exile began, Talia felt something other than despair. It wasn't hope, not yet, but perhaps it was the beginning of something that might eventually grow into it. John's quarters were modest but surprisingly homey. Unlike the sterile corridors of Outpost Nexus, his small apartment contained personal touches, a worn leather chair, shelves with actual physical books, and small potted plants that added splashes of green to the otherwise utilitarian space. "It's not much," he said, running a hand through his sandy hair as he gestured for Talia to sit in the leather chair. "But it's home." Talia lowered herself gratefully into the chair, which was indeed more comfortable than anything in her makeshift quarters. "It's warm," she said, realizing she meant it both literally and figuratively. John moved to a small cooking area, pulling ingredients from a compact refrigeration unit. "Hope you like pasta. It's about all I can make that's edible." "I'm not familiar with it," Talia admitted, watching with curiosity as he filled a pot with water. "Human comfort food, simple carbohydrates but damn satisfying." He glanced over his shoulder with a smile. "Any Viridian dietary restrictions I should know about?" The question surprised her. On Viridia, accommodating outsiders was considered unnecessary indulgence. "No citrus," she said. "It causes our skin to, well, it's not pleasant." "Noted. No lemon in the sauce." As John cooked, Talia found herself relaxing slightly. The familiar domestic sounds and smells were soothing, reminding her of a life she'd once had, before her exile, before everything changed. "So," John said as he stirred the sauce, 50 is considered old for a first pregnancy among your people?" Talia tensed. "Yes, the ideal window is 30 to 40. Any later is considered selfish." "Selfish?" John raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "Resources," she explained, unconsciously stroking her belly. "Viridian society is structured around efficiency. Children born to older parents require resources that could be better allocated elsewhere. At least, that's the official position." "And the unofficial one?" Talia hesitated. Discussing Viridian politics with an outsider was dangerously close to another taboo. But then again, what more could they do to her? "Control," she said finally. "The reproductive codes keep everyone in line. Follow the rules or lose everything." John nodded, his expression thoughtful as he drained the pasta. "Humans tried that approach a few times throughout history. Never stuck. We're too damn stubborn." "Is that why humans spread so quickly through the galaxy?" Talia asked. "Your stubbornness?" "That and our curiosity." He grinned, plating the food. "We're like cosmic cockroaches, impossible to get rid of." The self-deprecating humor startled a laugh from Talia, a sound she hadn't made in months. It felt good. John handed her a plate and sat across from her with his own. The pasta was simple but aromatic, with a rich red sauce and small pieces of synthetic protein that mimicked earth meat. Talia took a tentative bite and closed her eyes in appreciation. After months of bland ration packs, the explosion of flavors was almost overwhelming. "Good?" John asked, looking pleased. "Extraordinary," she admitted. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before John spoke again. "So what's your plan?" "For when the baby comes?" The question sobered her immediately. "I don't have one. The station administrators made it clear they consider my presence temporary, despite the exile being permanent. I have nowhere else to go." John frowned. "That's bullshit. You can't raise a kid in that storage closet they've got you in." "I don't have many options," Talia said, setting down her fork. "Viridian exiles are problematic for most worlds. No one wants to risk diplomatic incidents." "Humans aren't most people," John said firmly. "We've got colonies that would—" A sharp knock at the door interrupted him. They exchanged glances of surprise. Visitors were rare in the maintenance section. John rose and moved to the door, checking the security display. His expression darkened. station security, and someone else. He opened the door to reveal two figures, a human security officer looking uncomfortable, and behind him, a tall, imposing Viridian male in elaborate formal attire. The Viridian's skin was a deeper emerald than Talia's, marked with the silver patterns that denoted high political status. Talia froze, her golden eyes widening in recognition and fear. "Ambassador Kelvin," she whispered. The Viridian's cold gaze moved from John to Talia, lingering on her swollen belly with obvious distaste. "Citizen Talia," he said, his voice smooth and cultured, or rather, former citizen. "What an unexpected pleasure." John stepped partially between them, his posture subtly protective. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" The security officer cleared his throat. "Ambassador Kelvin requested to speak with the Viridian exile. Station protocol requires us to facilitate diplomatic requests." "At this hour," John challenged. Ambassador Kelvin's expression remained impassive. "Viridian business doesn't adhere to human schedules. I require a private conversation with the female." Talia felt a chill run through her. Kelvin was her former mate's most dangerous political rival. His presence here couldn't be coincidence, and couldn't be good. "She has a name," John said, his voice hardening, "and she's in the middle of dinner." The ambassador's eyes narrowed at the human's defiance. "This matter concerns Viridian security. Your interference is inappropriate." "My apartment, my rules," John replied evenly. "You want to talk to her? You can do it tomorrow, through proper channels." The tension in the small room was palpable. Talia could see the security officer shifting uncomfortably, caught between station protocol and the human's territorial stance. Ambassador Kelvin's face remained expressionless, but Talia recognized the dangerous glint in his eyes. "Very well. Tomorrow then." His gaze shifted to Talia. "We have much to discuss about your situation." After they departed, John turned to Talia, concern evident in his expression. "Friend of yours?" Talia shook her head, her appetite gone. "The opposite. He's my former mate's greatest political rival." "And he tracked you to this station because—" "I don't know," Talia said, her hand protectively covering her belly. "But Viridians don't make social calls. Whatever he wants, it won't be to my benefit." John's jaw set in determination. "Well, he'll have to go through me first." The simple declaration, so human, so impulsive, made Talia's heart flutter in a way she hadn't experienced in years. Talia awoke on John's couch with a start, momentarily disoriented. The events of the previous evening came rushing back. The unexpected kindness, the shared meal, and the ominous arrival of Ambassador Kelvin. A sharp pain lanced through her abdomen, more intense than the previous day's discomfort. She gasped, clutching her belly. "John," she called, her voice tight with pain. He appeared from the small bathroom, hair damp from a shower, wearing only work pants. The sight of his bare chest, muscular and marked with several small scars, momentarily distracted her from the pain. "Morning. I was thinking we should—" He stopped, noticing her distress. "What's wrong?" "I don't know," Talia admitted, another wave of pain washing over her. "Something's not right." John was at her side in an instant, concern etched on his face. "How long have you been having contractions?" "These aren't contractions," she said, breathing through the pain. "It's too early, and it feels wrong." Without hesitation, John helped her to her feet. "We're going to medical." "Now!" "No," Talia protested weakly. "Viridian pregnancies are different. The station doctors won't know." "They'll know more than I do," John said firmly, pulling on a shirt. "And a hell of a lot more than that ambassador who's probably waiting to pounce on you this morning." The mention of Kelvin sobered her. "He can't know about this. Viridian tradition considers pregnancy complications a sign of genetic weakness. If he reports back that my child is defective—" John's expression hardened. "Then we keep this quiet. I know the night shift doctor. He's good people." The journey to the medical bay was tense. John supported Talia as they navigated the less-traveled maintenance corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where they might be seen. Each step was agony for Talia, the pain coming in increasingly frequent waves. The medical bay was mercifully quiet when they arrived. Dr. Elliot, a middle-aged human with kind eyes and a perpetually rumpled appearance, looked up from his console in surprise. "John, what's—" His eyes widened as he took in Talia's condition. "Bring her in." Quickly. As John helped Talia onto the examination table, Dr. Elliot activated the privacy screens and locked the bay doors. "Viridian, yes," he asked, already calibrating his scanner. "How far along?" 7 months, Talia gasped, "but something's wrong." "It shouldn't hurt like this." Dr. Elliot ran the scanner over her abdomen, his expression growing increasingly concerned. "There's some kind of biochemical imbalance. Your body is producing elevated levels of… I'm not familiar with this compound." "Noctilium," Talia supplied, recognizing the readings. "It's a stress hormone. Viridian females produce it when threatened." John frowned. "Threatened by what?" "In ancient times, predators," Talia explained through gritted teeth. "Now it's usually triggered by severe psychological stress. The body perceives a threat and tries to accelerate the pregnancy to ensure survival of the species." Dr. Elliot nodded grimly. "Your body's trying to deliver prematurely. We need to counteract the hormone." "Can you do that?" John asked. "Not without Viridian medical protocols, Doctor," Elliot admitted, "which I don't have access to." Talia closed her eyes in despair. "The Viridian medical database is restricted. Only authorized personnel can…" "Or a high-ranking diplomat," John interrupted, a calculating look in his eyes. "Like an ambassador." Talia stared at him. "You can't be serious. Kelvin would never help me." "Not willingly," John agreed, "but he doesn't need to know he's helping." Dr. Elliot looked between them, understanding dawning. "You're talking about accessing his credentials." "Exactly," John said. "He's here on a diplomatic visit. He'll have full database access." "That's insane," Talia protested. "Viridian security is impenetrable." John grinned, a reckless, confident expression that made Talia's heart flutter despite her pain. "Good thing I'm not Viridian, then. Doc, can you keep her stable for a few hours?" Dr. Elliot nodded reluctantly. "I can administer a general anti-inflammatory that should slow the process. But I need those protocols, John." "You'll have them," John promised, squeezing Talia's hand. "And while I'm at it, I'm going to find out what Kelvin's really doing here." Before Talia could protest further, John was gone, leaving her with Dr. Elliot and 1,000 unspoken fears. "He's either the bravest or the most foolish human I've ever met, Doctor," Elliot commented as he prepared an injection. "Is there a difference?" Talia asked weakly. The doctor chuckled. "Not in my experience." As the medication took effect, dulling the edge of her pain, Talia found herself thinking about John, his impulsive kindness, his protective stance against Kelvin, his reckless determination to help her now. So different from Viridian males, with their calculated actions and political maneuvering. "Why would he risk himself for me?" she wondered aloud. Dr. Elliot glanced up from his monitor. "That's humanity for you. We're suckers for a damsel in distress." "I am not a damsel," Talia objected, unfamiliar with the term, but understanding the implication. "No," Dr. Elliot agreed with a small smile, "but you are in distress, and John has always had a thing for lost causes." Meanwhile, John moved through the station with purpose, his maintenance uniform and ID giving him access to service corridors and junction boxes that most passengers never saw. Years of working on Outpost Nexus had taught him every shortcut and blind spot in the security system. His destination, the diplomatic quarters where Ambassador Kelvin would be staying. Not to confront him directly, John wasn't that stupid, but to access the terminal in the adjacent maintenance room. From there, he could potentially tap into the ambassador's communications and, if he was lucky, his security credentials. What he didn't expect was to overhear a conversation that would change everything. "The female's child must not be born," Kelvin's voice came clearly through the thin wall. Counselor Renix was clear. "If word gets out that he sired a child with her, at her age, the scandal would destroy his coalition." "And the female?" another voice asked. "A regrettable casualty," Kelvin replied coldly. "After the child is terminated, she can be returned to Viridia for rehabilitation. She won't survive the process, of course, but it will appear properly procedural." John froze, his blood running cold. This wasn't just political maneuvering. This was murder of Talia and her unborn child, and he was the only one who knew. John's heart pounded as he backed away from the wall. Kelvin's words echoed in his mind. The female's child must not be born. Cold, calculated murder disguised as political necessity. He needed those medical protocols and fast. But now he also needed an escape plan. With practiced efficiency, John accessed the maintenance terminal. Years of fixing the station's outdated systems had taught him every backdoor and security flaw. His fingers flew across the interface, bypassing firewalls designed to keep out far more sophisticated intruders. Bingo, he muttered as the Viridian diplomatic database appeared on screen. Finding the medical protocols was surprisingly easy. Viridians were meticulous record keepers, organizing everything in logical hierarchies. Within minutes, he downloaded the pregnancy complication protocols to his personal device. But that was the easy part. Getting Talia safely off the station would be infinitely more complicated. John slipped out of the maintenance room and headed toward the docking bay, his mind racing. He needed a ship, supplies, and a diversion big enough to cover their escape. And he needed help. "Duncan," he said into his comm unit. "You busy?" "Neck deep in coolant leaks," came the irritated response. "What do you need, Callahan?" "Remember that favor you owe me? Time to pay up." 20 minutes later, John strode into the medical bay, finding Talia pale but conscious. Dr. Elliot looked up from his monitor with obvious relief. "Tell me you got it," the doctor said. John tossed him the data chip. "Everything you need to stabilize her, but we've got bigger problems." As Dr. Elliot began implementing the Viridian medical protocols, John explained what he'd overheard. Talia's golden eyes widened with each word, her hand protectively covering her belly. "Renix," she whispered. "I should have known he wouldn't let this go." "You knew he was the father?" John asked. Talia nodded weakly. "Our relationship was complicated. When he took a younger mate for political advantage, I was supposed to quietly disappear. When he discovered I was pregnant." She trailed off, pain evident in her expression. "Well, his secret's about to get a lot harder to keep," John said grimly, "because we're getting you off the station." Dr. Elliot looked up sharply. "That's insane. She's in no condition to travel." "She's in no condition to stay," John countered. "Once I stabilize her with these protocols." "The protocols will help, Doctor," Elliot interrupted, "but she needs at least 24 hours of treatment before she should be moved." John ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "We don't have 24 hours. Kelvin could make his move anytime." "Then we buy time," Talia said suddenly, her voice stronger than before. The medication was already taking effect, her color improving. "If Kelvin believes I'm still in my quarters, unaware of his plans..." John caught on immediately. "A decoy. Elliot, can you create a false medical record showing she's still in her assigned quarters?" The doctor hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "I can manipulate the life sign sensors, but where will you actually hide her?" "My place," John said. "It's the last place they'd look for an exiled Viridian." "And then what?" Dr. Elliot asked. "You can't hide forever." John's expression hardened with determination. "We're not hiding. We're leaving. Duncan is prepping a maintenance shuttle as we speak. Tomorrow morning during the shift change, we make our move." "A maintenance shuttle?" Talia asked skeptically. "Those barely have life support, let alone range for interstellar travel." "We don't need interstellar range," John explained. "Just enough to reach the Proxima trading post. From there we can book passage on a human transport to New Terra. The colony there has a policy of accepting refugees. No questions asked." Talia stared at him, bewildered by his willingness to upend his entire life for her. "Why would you do this? You'd be giving up everything. Your job, your home." John's expression softened as he looked at her. "Some things are worth fighting for." The simple statement hung in the air between them, loaded with unspoken meaning. Talia felt a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the medication. Dr. Elliot cleared his throat awkwardly. "I'll need about 2 hours to complete the treatment. Then she should be stable enough to move." "Perfect," John said, breaking the moment. "I'll get everything ready at my place." As he turned to leave, Talia caught his hand. "John." Their eyes met, and for a moment, words seemed inadequate. "Thank you." His fingers tightened around hers, calloused palm against smooth green skin. "Thank me when we're safely away from here." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Elliot administered the Viridian medical protocols, stabilizing Talia's condition. The noctilium levels in her bloodstream gradually decreased and the premature contraction subsided. Meanwhile, John prepared his quarters, gathering essential supplies and communicating with Duncan about the shuttle preparations. Every so often, he checked the station's security feeds, watching for any sign that Kelvin was making his move. By evening, Talia was well enough to be moved. Dr. Elliot escorted her through the maintenance corridors to John's quarters, while John created a diversion by accidentally flooding an environmental control junction near the diplomatic quarters. "The false life signs are in place, Doctor," Elliot said as they arrived at John's door. "As far as station sensors are concerned, you're still in your assigned quarters, sleeping soundly." Talia nodded gratefully. "I don't know how to thank you." "Just stay alive," the doctor replied grimly. "And when you get to New Terra, name the baby something nice." After Dr. Elliot left, Talia found herself alone with John in his quarters. The space felt different now, not just a kind stranger's home, but their last refuge before a dangerous journey. "You should rest," John said, gesturing to his bed. "Take the comfortable spot. I'll keep watch." Talia sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly overwhelmed by the day's events. "I never imagined a human would risk so much for me." John shrugged as he checked the seals on a pack of supplies. "Humans are funny that way. We tend to get attached quickly." "Is that what this is?" Talia asked softly. "Attachment?" John paused, looking up at her. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Let's just say I'm not ready to see your story end." "Not like this." The air between them seemed to crackle with unspoken possibilities. For a moment, Talia could almost forget the danger, the exile, the uncertain future. Everything except the human who had changed her life with a simple offer of dinner. But the moment was broken by an urgent beep from John's comm unit. "Duncan," he answered quickly. "We've got trouble," came the tense response. "Kelvin's men are searching the maintenance section, and they're heading your way." "How close?" John demanded, already moving to gather their essential supplies. 5 minutes, maybe less," Duncan replied, his voice tense. "They're doing a systematic sweep." 2 Viridian security officers and what looks like station security backing them up. John cursed under his breath. "We need to move now. Is the shuttle ready?" "Not even close," Duncan admitted. "Life support's online, but I've barely started the pre-flight checks. Navigation's still offline, and I haven't loaded half the supplies." Talia struggled to her feet, one hand supporting her belly. "We can't outrun them." "Not in my condition." John's mind raced through options, each worse than the last. Hiding was impossible. Viridians had enhanced olfactory senses. Fighting was suicide. That left only one choice. "Duncan, forget the pre-flights. Just get the damn thing powered up and ready to launch. We're coming now." "You're insane," Duncan protested. "That shuttle won't make it to Proxima without—" "It doesn't need to," John interrupted. "It just needs to get us far enough from the station to send a distress call to the Artemis." "The military transport?" Duncan sounded incredulous. "They're not going to divert for—" "The captain owes me," John said firmly. "Big time. Bay 12 in 10 minutes. He ended the transmission and turned to Talia, who was staring at him with a mixture of fear and determination. "Can you walk?" She nodded, straightening her shoulders. "I can do whatever I need to." John smiled despite the tension. "That's the spirit. Here's the plan. We take the service tunnels to level 3, then cut across to the emergency evacuation corridor. It's longer, but security rarely patrols there." "And if we encounter them?" Talia asked. John patted the small tool on his belt, a sonic disruptor used for loosening stubborn mechanical joints. "This thing can scramble neural pathways if set to the right frequency. Won't kill them, but they'll have one hell of a headache." They moved quickly but cautiously. Talia was slower than John would have